choice of the haftarah for this week's parasha, we see one of the most incredible examples of the power of personal choice, how we can choose to direct our own lives no matter what the circumstances. After all, we see in this week's parasha, juxtaposed to the prophet of the haftarah, Ovadia. Ovadia is the shortest of all prophecies, one chapter of 21 verses, and it appears specifically this week, juxtaposed. Ovadia, a descendant of Esau, of Eisav, is juxtaposed to the character of Esau, Eisav, that we read about in this week's Torah reading. You can be a son of two of the greatest tzaddikim of the generation, arguably the greatest, Yitzchak and Rivka. You can be their son and you can turn out to be an Eisav. Yet you can be a descendant of Edom and Eisav in the palace of the most wicked king and queen of Israel and turn out to be an incredible tzaddik, Ovadia. After all, it was Esau who had every opportunity, like Jacob, to turn out to be a tzaddik. And Esau turned out how he ended up turning out and being one of the arch enemies over time of the Jewish people, his descendants. Eisav, representative of so much which is not good and sanguine and ethical about what human life is all about. Yet, Ovadia, for two reasons, could have turned out so differently, and look at the choices he made. Ovadia was a descendant of Edom, a descendant of Eisav, and not only that, he also was a prophet in the time of Jezebel and Ahab, Achav and Izebel, two of the worst kings and queens of Israel. They killed every single one of the prophets, destroyed all of the sages. And Ovadia, who was the head of the royal court, what he did, he went out of his way to hide 100 prophets, 50 in one cave, 50 in another cave. He sustained them for years, eventually being poverty-stricken. But he made the choice, despite being in such incredibly difficult and challenging circumstances, and despite his background, he ended up being one of the most courageous and tzaddikim, ultimately becoming a prophet and meriting his own book. So you see, it is true. The home you grow up in has an impact. Your circumstances have an impact. Your surroundings have an impact. But ultimately, nothing is in place of personal choice. You can be the son of Rivka and Yitzchak, the great tzaddikim, and turn out to be an Eisav. And you can be a convert from the descendants of Esau in the most wicked environment of Izebel and Achav and turn out to be a great prophet and a great tzaddik. May we all, despite whatever our circumstances are, always know that we are never entirely victims of our circumstances, but can be victors, decision makers, proactive, deciding ultimately through personal responsibility the course that our lives will take as individuals, as a community, and as a people. Shabbat Shalom.